Hi, welcome to Ken's Games Collection. Back in 1996, Lobotomy Studios released a game that would turn out to be one of my favorite games from the 90s. And this game came out in 1996, and it is Exhumed, also known as PowerSlave in America. And would you believe, after all these years, the remaster has finally been released from Nightshade Studios. And I just want to talk a bit about my memories of the original games and what I've been playing. I've been playing the remake on PlayStation 5. It's 4K running at 60 frames a second. I believe it's doing the same on the Xbox Series X. Unfortunately, it's not going to do the same on the Switch, but it runs pretty decent on the Switch as well. But this was an incredible game back in the mid-90s, and I played a lot of games, first-person shooters, during that era. Your Quakes, your Dooms, Half-Life, all that sort of stuff were incredible. But this game came along and, for me, redefined first-person shooters because it had platforming elements to it, which was something that I hadn't seen in first-person shooters used the way it was. It was like a platform game. It was started out as a normal first-person shooter, but as you got your abilities, you were able to go places, go to higher ridges that would take you to different areas, and it did have a real feel of Metroidvania to it. And that was back then when we didn't even coin the phrase Metroidvania style of games, but it was incredible. Now, I did have the Sega Saturn version first. Months later, I would get this on the PlayStation. One thing that I really noticed on the Saturn was just how fast it ran for the Saturn, because the Saturn was really limited to what it could do. But with that game, Lobotomy Studios somehow did an amazing job of getting this game to run at an amazing frame rate. And I remember when I got it on the PlayStation, it was like, what's this? This is different. They had changed a lot of the levels. There was, on the Saturn version, there'd be places that were wide open, but on the PlayStation version, there was now walls put up, and the geometry of the levels was all different. And I think what the main hub was like, this is nothing like the Saturn version. And I thought, my God, they've released the same game, but they've taken it and tweaked it and did different things to it to make it more unique. It wasn't until years later that I realized that they were struggling with the PlayStation, which was really weird. You'd think they would struggle with the Sega Saturn hardware, but they weren't. They were struggling with the PlayStation hardware, so they had to make adjustments and changes to it, and they didn't have the bomb boost that was in the Saturn version. In the Saturn version, it was just something that was there. If you threw a bomb down, your character would just jump up in the air, get damaged. The developers thought it'd be really cool to have these hidden places up on ceilings and stuff, where you do a bomb boost to go up to get these Kenobic jars. I talked about this in another video. That wasn't in the PlayStation version. I think the tank game was in the Saturn version, but wasn't in the PlayStation version. But let's talk about what Nightshade Studios has done. They have taken the best bits of both the Sega Saturn and the PlayStation and melded it together into this remaster, which I thought was really cool. Back in the day, when I played it on the PlayStation versus the Saturn, I noticed that the scorpions on the PlayStation version were blue, and on the Saturn they were red. I just didn't get why that was. It turns out that I think it was Sony, they wanted to be a little bit different, so changed the color. In the remaster, you got the blue scorpions, you got the red scorpions all mixed up, which was really cool. I really liked those little tweaks to it. They have changed a few things to make it run on the widescreen TVs and that sort of thing, but basically what I remember, it's more to do with the Sega Saturn version than the PlayStation version. They've really relied heavily on the Saturn version, and I didn't know that the PC version was totally different. I think that's why it never took off on PC back in the day. It was just a standard first-person shooter. It didn't have all the platforming elements that we had on the home console, which back then is really weird, because you would think that PC games, especially during the 90s, would be leading the way, but with Lobotomy software, they really did an amazing job for the home consoles versus the PC. So yeah, I can see why with the port of this on modern consoles, that Nightshade Studios really did, did their homework. They did an amazing job on it, and it just brings back so many great memories, because it was a game that I played over and over again, and just getting back into it all these years later. There's levels that I remember vividly, but then later on, these other levels, I'm thinking, I don't remember that. And it's really cool going back to revisit these levels, because it feels fresh and new in 2022. And it's just, it would be so great to see this get a physical release. And if Limited Run could make it happen, I would definitely get it on the PlayStation 5. It is one of those games that really stood out in my memory from the 90s all the way through to now, because I was I'm somebody who's into Egyptology, and this was the perfect game for somebody like me to enjoy in a first-person shooter. So if you haven't tried Exhumed PowerSlave, or PowerSlave Exhumed, how it's called, you really need to give it a go, because it is such an incredible game that came out so many years ago. And it's, for those of us who were there back then and played it on the Saturn or the PlayStation, it's got a lot of fond memories for us, because of the fact that it's like a prequel to what the Metroid Prime games would be. So that says a lot. So check it out. It is an amazing game. I just couldn't believe what happened. I saw it years ago. There was talk about getting this thing up and running, then we had nothing. I think it's the Kex engine that they're using. Nightshade Studios has done some really good ports of older games, and this is probably their best to date. So definitely check it out. If you want to do analysis comparison, then check out Digital Foundry. They did a great video on that, but I'm not going to be able to do something like that. But it's worth checking out to know all of the nuances of the game, and what Nightshade Studios took the best assets from the PC, sometimes with the character sprites, versus the PlayStation and the Sega Saturn version. But definitely is something that is worthy of your time. It is a little bit frustrating while I remember it, but the controls is a lot better than what we had back in the day on the PlayStation or the Sega Saturn. So definitely it's worth checking out, guys. It is such an incredible game. So until next time, bye.